Hey, good evening, class. Sorry for taking so long for getting this video out to you guys. I appreciate your patience, and yeah, I've just been so busy trying to get all of the other teachers all set and ready for being able to do distance learning. So it took a lot of time and a lot of effort there, and so thank you so much for your patience. I sent an email to your parents the other day, and hopefully you guys got wind of that, and just outlining, just telling them what I've already told you guys, and I guess the only news, from since I've seen you guys last is that obviously I did not foresee the government deciding to, well, recommending that we stay away from groups of 10 or more. And so, of course, I want to honor the wishes of our president, and so I do want to do that. I think it's important for us to listen and obey. And so I was hoping initially to have you guys come in, try to find a time for you guys to come in maybe like next week on Wednesday, like around the 25th. Obviously, since that's within the 2 weeks that was recommended not to come in, not to gather in groups of 10 or more, I decided that would not be a good idea. But 2 weeks are going to be up relatively quickly, and I'm hoping if all is okay, we might be able to get together afterwards. So first week of April is what I'm hoping. All of the computer parts are almost in. Definitely everything's ordered. I already told you guys that. The last of the parts are going to come in, including your monitors and graphics card and everything. I think this Saturday is going to be the latest. So everything should arrive by this Saturday. So, and as you know, I would like to get building as soon as possible because we need to find out if any parts are defective. So I'm hoping to have you guys come in, Lord willing. And we might even have to divide it into groups, right? I mean, maybe half of you guys come in one day and another half comes in another day. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm open to suggestions, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Also, your parents, I've asked them to hopefully pay by the end of Easter break, which is a lot, obviously if possible. If that's not possible, then please let me know, and we'll try to make some arrangements with the school. And the payments go to the school. Obviously I didn't foresee this happening, and for me to purchase the parts this quickly and for us to be building this quickly. So lots of unforeseen things, but I hope you're still excited. I hope you guys are still excuse me, looking forward to building and hopefully getting on your computers and working on them. Okay, well, the plan for the curriculum then is, until that happens, number one, we do have to finish up the anatomy of computers, and so we're about, I would say, maybe about halfway through or more. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go ahead and bulldoze over the entire rest of it. We're on topic number 6, which is motherboards, and we already got into it, and so we're kind of halfway through the motherboards. And yeah, I think we have 14 parts to go through. The first few take a little bit longer to explain. But the last half of this is actually pretty quick, mostly. So we're gonna just try to bulldoze over it all. Should you take notes, I'm going to leave that up to you. I already told you guys, taking notes is the best way for it to actually solidify in your brain. If you're just listening, you might not retain as much as you think you will. But I'll leave that up to you. Obviously, you can at any time pause or rewind the video and watch it again if I go too fast, or if you need to take some time to write some things down. What's going to probably happen is at the end of the month, close to the end of this month or the beginning of April, I will have an online probably an online test for you guys. And obviously, this is going to be a little bit different. You know, if it's online, there's not really a good way for me to, because usually the in-class test is obviously closed notes, but you know, taking distance learning, there's a different dynamic in play, right? You could have stuff open. So probably what's going to happen is it will not be closed notes, because I can't enforce that through distance learning, but I will probably have to revise the test and make it a little bit more challenging, and maybe even put time limits on it so that you're not just you could have somebody who's never taken this course and knows nothing about computers, answer these questions technically if you gave them the notes and said, okay, take this test, right? Not that you would do that. That would be very dishonest, yeah? Okay, so let's get started with the topic 6b, which is a continuation about motherboards. And so we're talking about the history or evolution and what has happened. And I think we already finished this part of it, but we'll just start from here. I think this is a good segue into the more detailed parts of history, because I think I just gave an overview. It's the last thing I did. Okay, so let's take a look real quick. Oops, let me click on here. All right, so and again, these are just approximate dates. Yeah, this is could be plus or minus a few years. Yeah, but from the 60s through the 90s, motherboards had nothing integrated on them. If you wanted to have anything on them, you had to get what are called dedicated cards, sometimes also known as daughter boards. You see, motherboard and daughter board. Yeah. So you'd have to get these other add-on cards or dedicated cards or daughter boards. That's a very old term. People don't usually use daughter board anymore, but that was what people used to call them. And you plug it into your motherboard. For example, you want to be able to see what's going on? Well, you have to get a graphics card. Oh, you want to be able to plug in a mouse? Oh, you got to get a card for that. Oh, you want to plug in your keyboard, a printer, any other devices, right? You want sound, anything and everything. You want memory on your computer? Believe it or not, old computers, they would actually, to have memory, you would actually have to plug in a daughter board and put your memory on that daughter board, and that daughter board would connect to your motherboard. So that's the way things used to be. 90s to about 2K, what ended up happening was most of the things became integrated onto the motherboard. Everything except for the GPU, the graphics processing unit, or graphics card, right? Short for graphics card. I'll just call it GPU. So everything else was on there. Like, so you had your sound built into it. You didn't have to buy a sound card anymore. Didn't have to buy Ethernet card anymore to get internet. Didn't have to buy USB card for plugging any USB devices or anything like that, right? So everything with the mouse and keyboard and all that good stuff, right? Most of the very basic necessary things became integrated. So it helped bring down costs. It was a good thing. Then 2K to 2K10, what ended up happening was mostly integrated, and what they did was they also put a very weak graphics card built right onto the motherboard as well. They figured, okay, let's just put everything on there. All the person needs to do is buy their motherboard, and they're pretty much set. Obviously, they still have to add on the CPU and RAM and get their hard drive and all that other stuff, right? But let's just go ahead and throw everything on the motherboard. That was a good and bad thing. That was good for people who just did office work. But if you needed to do any video editing or do any gaming at all, it would be so bad. Even those ancient games would barely run on those motherboards. And then the fourth evolution, sorry, my typo's right there, yeah. 2010 through 2018. So up until about the last time I had this build your own computer class, yeah. we went back to mostly everything integrated. But what ended up happening, what's different from what happened in 1990 through 2000, is that the GPU, the graphics processor, became integrated onto the CPU. And so when you bought the CPU, it would go ahead and run all of your graphics for you, right? So your office worker, they didn't have to buy a graphics card. They didn't have to make sure, oh, I have to buy a motherboard that has a graphics card built onto it. No, they didn't have to do that because all the graphics cards were built right onto the CPU. Now, were they any good? For office work, no problem. But for gaming, again, they struggled to do a decent job on most games, unless it was a non-3D game. You know what I'm talking about? If you had it like a 2D game, it'd probably run okay. But anything that was 3D, it wouldn't really cut it. So similar to what happened during the second evolution, but yeah, basically the GPU went from the motherboard to the CPU is what that fourth evolution was. Okay, and evolution number 5, present day, and this is where we left off last time, is a combination of 2 and 4, right? So right now, you can still go ahead and obviously buy motherboards with no GPUs on them. In fact, all of your motherboards are motherboards with no GPUs on them. They have pretty much everything else you need, but no GPU, right? So that's option number 2. And that's the dominant option right now. Now, I also mix in number 4 because, yes, there are still, because we're still in that transition, right, between evolution number 4 and evolution number 5. We're just on the cusp, of when that has happened. So yeah, you can definitely find GPUs built directly on the CPU. And in fact, some of you guys, or 2 of you guys, went with the default setup for this class, which was that GPU built onto the CPU. So you don't have to buy a separate graphics card. Now, if you choose to in the future, feel free to. You can go ahead and upgrade in the future. But again, it's not going to be worth it if you spend about $100. You are going to, on a graphics today, if you spend $100 on a graphics card today, you would get maybe like 5 frames per second faster on your game than what's built onto that default GPU that I'm getting on your system. Do you see what I'm saying? So is that worth spending $100 to get like 5 more frames per second on a game? I don't think that's a good... I mean, it is going to barely outperform what's built onto the GPU. And we're talking about AAA titles. We're not talking about 2D games. We're talking about really good games, right? It would just barely, outperform it. So you probably want to spend at least $120. Save up, $20 extra. That's not nothing, right? Save up another $20 or another $50. That's the lowest end I would go, is $120 for an RX 570. Or if you are gonna, if you can spend 150-ish, then get the 1650 Super is what I'd go for today, in this season at this time, if you were able to. Anyways, but yeah, you can always upgrade later. Sorry, let's get back onto topic here. So definitely number 4, this fourth evolution is still in play even today, and in some of your computers they actually have it. Okay, and those, again, this is the first time that GPUs that were built onto CPUs, this AMD one that I got you guys, this is really the first time where they were not laughable, and they did actually a pretty surprising job at processing games, right? I mean, most of the time when you have your GPU built onto your CPU, it's like, okay, you just play Minesweeper or Solitaire. Or something else, that's just a 2D, not very intensive at all. But now, with the AMD chips, the Ryzen chipset, these GPUs built on there can handle gaming pretty nicely. Okay, albeit at like medium settings, but still pretty nice. Okay, so those are the 5 evolutions. If I were to guess on a 6th evolution, I would say it would be back to these days right here, because gaming machines are becoming more and more like a custom-made kind of a thing, and so if I were to guess, I would say it's heading back to 2, evolution number 2. But I could be wrong. Who knows? All right. Oh, actually, no, I probably am wrong, because the next evolution is I forgot what the term is. Virtual gaming. That's not the term, but I'm just trying to make it up. In other words, you could have a super duper duper weak computer that cannot play games at all and play the best games, the latest games on it. Well, how's that possible? Well, because what they'll do is in the future, and it's right here. I mean, there you can buy the service. There's companies that offer this now, but latency is bad, and you really need a really good. The key is you don't have to have a great computer. You don't have to have a graphics card. You don't have to have an awesome CPU or anything like that. All you need is a really good internet connection, and with low latency and things like that. Because what the future is subscriptions to services where you can play games on their servers. In other words, the graphics card is actually not in your house, not in your CPU. I mean, not in your computer. It's actually on a server somewhere, miles and miles away from you, hundreds or even maybe thousands of miles away from you. And they have servers filled with graphics card. You connect to them, and they process the entire game for you. And basically, all you need is a good internet connection so you can actually see what's going on. So but not all the game enthusiasts are going to go that way. Most of them are probably going to prefer this evolution number 2, but some people might want to do it that way, especially if they travel a lot. Okay, anyways, that's just a little tidbit there. Next, let's see. Okay, so there's a picture of one of these first-gen motherboards. Take a look at that. There's like nothing but slots for daughter boards. See all these black slots here. The only connector that I can see here is right here, which is, I believe, for the keyboard. And that's it. A one-port motherboard. That's it. Yeah, that's what they used to look like. All right, let's continue on. All right, so this is specifying in more detail about the 60s through the 90s. And again, this is the generation where almost nothing was integrated, all was dedicated. Well, let's. You know what? I think I can fly through this really quickly because I might have already talked about most of this while I was explaining when I did the outline of this. Motherboards connected CPU and RAM. Motherboards had almost no ports except for a mouse or a keyboard. In this case, just a keyboard, no mouse. The first computers didn't have mouses. Needed expansion slots and daughter boards. Again, okay, so I already shared that. See, these are expansion slots, these black things here. And daughter boards, or dedicated cards, as people call them today, connected anything else that you wanted on your computer, like sound and graphics and stuff like that. Okay, every computer component, video. So, see again, redundant with what I've already shared. Video, mouse, everything required a dedicated piece of hardware or a dedicated daughter board for you to plug in here. So again, redundant. I've already shared this, so I'm just going to move really quick. So yeah, see, here's some quote-unquote daughter boards. Nobody calls them that anymore. They call them dedicated cards. Here's a picture of a sound card. Here's a USB card. Because, sometimes, the USB ports that are on the back of your motherboard isn't enough. Some people have millions of things they want to connect, and so you could get extra ones. And now, of course, people are using USB-C, and that's going to take over the industry, and it's already starting to do that. Yeah, and then a graphics card right there. So all of these are daughter boards, yeah, quote-unquote daughter boards, and they would plug into these dedicated slots. And yes, there are actually different sizes, as you can see on that picture behind me, behind this, right? There's different kinds, and that has even evolved as well. But I don't think we need to get into that. I don't think we do. Okay, next generation, second gen, or second evolution. Almost everything was integrated. There was very few things dedicated. Motherboards increase in the number of built-in or integrated hardware components. For example, mouse and keyboard ports, Ethernet ports, audio ports, video ports, USB ports. See, again, this is redundant with what I've already talked about, so that's why I'm just going ahead and moving fast on this. And so here would be a picture of a motherboard from this second generation, as you can see here. Yeah, I don't know if you guys. I hope you know what those are. Those are where you plug in your mouse and your keyboard. The green ones for your mouse, the purple ones for your keyboard. They didn't used to be color coded. They used to not be, and so people would sometimes plug into the wrong port. People would sometimes break off pins because it's circular, and they'd put it in the wrong way and break pins off. So that's definitely. You won't see things like that anymore. The industry has learned not to go with circular. I mean, even look at USB as rectangular, but you could put it in the wrong way. That's why all ports these days, like Lightning and USB-C, it doesn't matter. You could put it in this way or flip it around the other way, and it doesn't matter. It'll still work no matter which way you plug it in. Okay, sorry. History lesson. Free history lesson. But yeah, you can see the four. Got 4 USB ports. We've got Ethernet. We've got our sound. This is pink one's for microphone. Green one is for your speaker, and the blue one's for line in. And they didn't used to be color coordinated either. So sometimes you plug it into the wrong thing and scratch your head and wonder why it's not working. Printer port. Look at that. Printers all used to plug in via this. Now everything plugs in using USB, which is called Universal Serial Port, because the industry had to standardize, and so that's what they did. Monitor, this blue thing here is your VGA or your monitor connection. And the thing next to that, that silver one, is what's called a COM port. And so things like scanners used to plug into things like that, or as well as the printer port and some other things. But that became rarer and rarer because USB was the what was made to take over all these other ports. Have everything just universal. That's why it's USB, Universal Serial Port. Or bus, sorry. Universal Serial Bus, USB. Okay. And as you can see, here's some expansion for your daughter boards or dedicated cards. All right. Third evolution. Motherboards increase in the number of built-in or integrated hardware compatibilities. What was I thinking when I wrote that? Let me see. Motherboards increase the number of built-in or integrated hardware components. Yikes. Yeah, sorry about that. It should say components. Is it? Wait a second. Is this the same as what I just did before? Let's just fast forward through this. Okay. All right, kind of redundant with what was before. I don't think you really have to write this all down, but because we talked about this already. But yes, obviously your mouse and keyboard, your Ethernet, your audio, your video ports, right? That VGA is connected on there. USB ports. And many motherboards started having GPUs integrated on as well. So that's what happened. Third evolution. Okay, what pros and cons? We kind of already talked about this. Cheaper to build a computer when everything's integrated. Easier to build. Yeah, you don't have to go shopping and that's it for the pros. Cheaper and easier, but that comes at a cost. The cheaper computer comes at a cost. Easier computers come at the cost. Well, obviously, integrated graphics were very slow. Right, their performance were pretty poor, so gamers could only play very low games at very low settings. So everybody wanted dedicated, unless you weren't playing games. If you're just doing it using it for office work, then you didn't really need it. Okay. Sorry, that should say 2010 to 2018, not present. Motherboards continue to offer more integrated components and ports. Motherboards do not have integrated GPUs anymore. Right, that's the difference. Many CPUs now offer integrated GPUs, right? Your CPU has it. So again, nothing new. I've already talked about all this. So really, I don't think, yeah, this is kind of redundant because I kind of, my presentation has evolved. And so I kind of threw that section on, and now I guess this part is kind of redundant. So, okay, well, here's a modern motherboard. It's a few years old here. But as you can see here, pretty slick, pretty nice. Lots of ports. We've got, looks like maybe a 5.1 surround sound capability on here. We've got USB 3.0, which is characterized by the blue color as opposed to black. See, these ones up here are black, and that means that they're USB 2.0. 3.0, the faster ones, are usually going to be colored blue. Not always, but almost always. We've got HDMI out, we've got DVI, we've got still the RGB, we've got, this is the, what is it called again? There's kind of different names for it, but it's digital audio, Ethernet. Yeah, okay, so that is that, and I think that is possibly the end of our section about motherboards. All right, time to move on to the next component. Component number 7, sound cards. Here's some pictures of some sound cards. Now there are really 2 options available. Okay, there's 3 options available, 2 which are pictured. You can obviously use the sound that's integrated onto your motherboard, and all of you guys have elected to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or you can get what's called an external box, or sometimes known as a DAC, DAC. Right here, see DAC box. And so this will give you sound as well. Well, why would I need to do that? Because, you know, the computer already has sound. It already has a sound card built on. Yes, it does. But obviously, if you want to upgrade to digital sound, or you have you have some studio equipment that, you know, you're working with, then you might want to have the benefits of having the dedicated software and hardware to be able to do some some sound editing and processing and recording and all that stuff. External is becoming more and more popular. The reason being is because external is outside of your computer. Inside of your computer on your motherboard has a lot of electronic interference. Have you ever plugged in your headphones or a pair of speakers, and you've turned down the volume low, or no music or sound was playing, and you heard like static or like buzzing sound, or maybe you even heard like, like it's like, man, it picked up like some FM radio suddenly or something like that. I could hear somebody talking or something like that. Well, that's interference. And so because it's your computer inside, there's a lot of interference for audio, so it's not a good place for it to be. So more and more people are that care about audio are going with the external box like that. Okay. This sound card obviously processes the sound for your computer. All right, so you can hook up your speaker or your headphones or microphone or whatever. Usually you have, again, redundant, I kind of already talked about this. You usually have input for your mic, output for your speaker or headphones. And you might have also something called line in, so you can plug in something else, some other source to it. Like you can plug in your guitar to it if you get an adapter, right? I've done that before. Plug your guitar into your computer and record directly digitally from what you're playing on your guitar to your computer without using a microphone, right? Because then microphone, right, having it direct is better. Okay, anyways, these are always integrated on the motherboard, right? I've never seen, except for like the early prehistoric age of the motherboards, you're never going to see a motherboard not come with sound. Right? They're always going to be integrated, but audiophiles might want to consider upgrading to one of these two form factors. This doesn't really, there's nothing wrong with this. Again, it doesn't really tax your computer system. Sound processing doesn't take a lot of CPU power to be able to do. So there's not really anything wrong with having your sound built into or integrated onto your motherboard. Again, the only thing that I can think of why you would consider doing this is if you are getting interference. But then again, a lot of the built integrated sound cards, they're even getting more, they're getting better. They're saying, oh, on the box or on their advertisement, their promotion, they'll say, well, our chips are shielded from electronic interference and things like that. And so yeah, and that is true. A lot of them are nowadays, and so you might, it's getting rarer and rarer to hear that feedback or that the buzzing, unless you have some really cheap cable or speakers. Okay, so it doesn't tax your system, so there's nothing wrong with having it integrated, but you're not going to have some of the bells and whistles that you might have by going with one of these two options. But yeah, most people don't need bells and whistles for their sound. Some may want to still buy dedicated sound cards, and here are a couple of reasons. If you have surround sound, 5.1 or 7.1, and again, the number before the decimal place is how many speakers you have. So 5.1 usually means you have right and left and center and 2 behind you. Back, rear left and rear right. Right? So that's 5.1. 7 means you have 2 more. Usually it's going to be, center, front right, front left, side right and left, and rear, rear, left and right. Usually that's what that is. Okay. If you're doing any audio production, you might need that for your sound equipment. If you want to go digital, there's this digital, also known as optical, also known as SPDIF connection. So you'll see all of these. I think that's like Sony, Panasonic, digital, something. I think that's what it is. Because Sony and Panasonic, they created this digital form factor, this port here. Yeah, that's pretty much the only reasons why you might want to. And you can get some motherboards that have some of these bells and whistles already built into it, right? The 5.1 surround sound, the digital interfaces, right? You can. And some of you guys who got the upgraded motherboard, you did get it, right? So if you wanted to, you could do that. All right. I think I also showed a video about it, but I'm just going to forego that because it's not important, and I just want to move through the important stuff as quickly as I can. Okay, so next part, number 8, the Ethernet card. Here's a picture down here. Oh, yikes, what just happened there? I apparently clicked on the link to it. Sorry. How did I do that? I'm pretty sure my mouse not. Okay, anyway, sorry about that. Let's click out here. Okay, Ethernet card, aka also known as network card, LAN card, wired card, or internet card. Now, obviously, now we have, in this day and age, we have 2 kinds of internets, wireless and wired. But let's first talk about this one, internet, Ethernet card. So people will go back and forth between these different terminologies. So it's kind of important that you know if somebody says LAN or Ethernet or internet or wired, you know what they're talking about. Okay, let's see. These are always integrated onto your motherboard. I've never seen a motherboard without this in this day and age. All right, since the prehistoric after the prehistoric times, right? All motherboards had this integrated. Again, this doesn't really tax your system anymore, so there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like, well, Mr. Yang, should I go ahead and buy a dedicated one because I want my my motherboard and my CPU to be as untaxed, as unbothered, as powerful as it can, and I don't want it to be hampered or bothered by having to, take care of these other things. Well, yeah, that it's not like it's not like it's taxed anymore. I gave this analogy before, but if you were to go outside the school and run around the track once, and I had you, for example, I had you, I don't know, I gave you my cell phone and I said, hey, I need you to put this in your pocket while you are running around the track. It's not like, but Mr. Yang, that's going to affect my lap. You put that in my pocket while I run, I'm going to, I might take me an extra minute to cross the finish line. Oh, I don't think so. It's not like a cinder block or like a gallon milk or something like that. It's not going to tax you at all. So same thing here. It's really not going to tax you much by having it. So, oh, what in the world? Why is it playing? Oh my goodness. Okay, Linus, I know you want the attention, but I don't know why it keeps on trying to. Oh, is it because there's a link back there? Oh, that's why. Oh, yeah, there's a link back there. See, it's my arrow's turning into a finger there. All right, so I'm accidentally clicking on there, and it's launching it, even though the bullet hasn't shown up yet. Okay, I'll use my keyboard instead. How about that? All right. Okay. Here are the speeds of different Ethernet cards. 10 megabits per second. That's pretty old. I mean, that was, back in the 90s, we're doing that. Pretty soon after that, I would probably say late 90s. We're already going at most people, well, not most, I mean, we're transitioning to 100 megabits per second. These days, all the Ethernet cards are 1 gigabit per second. And the next evolution, which has not, it's already out, but not a lot of routers, not a lot of cables, not a lot of, well, I take that back, some cables. Not a lot of routers and not a lot of, even your Comcast modem, whatever you're running, right? Not a lot of them support this. And not a lot of motherboards come with 10 gigabits, but, some of the more expensive ones, a lot of the gaming ones, they're starting to come out with 10 gigabits. 10 gigabit network cards. And actually even 20 gigabits has already come out. There's also 100, I think there's 100 gigabit, I think that's come out, but it's just so crazy expensive that nobody is going to buy it, and so 20 is actually more feasible of a next step than 100 gigabits. Now don't get that confused with gigabytes. Bytes and bits are different by a factor of 8. 1 bit, 1 byte equals 1 bit. Sorry. 1 byte equals 8 bits. So so that definitely bits with a lowercase b in this case here. Yeah, bits are a lot smaller of a unit. Most people's home internet connections, if you have Comcast at home or AT&T, if you have like a mid-range and package, you're probably topping out at about 50 megabits per second. 50 megabits per second. Well, how many megabytes is that? Well, let's find out. Let's get out a calculator real quick. Because, almost nobody calculates things in megabits. It's only internet speeds. The reason why is because, because it would have been a lot more annoying to calculate it in terms of megabytes, because then they'd have to have decimal places. Yeah, this is my 0.02 megabytes card, right? And nobody wants to use units with decimals, so that's why they went with this smaller unit. Anyways, okay, so let's move on. Let's pretend you have Comcast at home and you have 50 megabits per second. Well, I told you that's a factor of 8, right? So we divide that by 8. So your maximum speed possible for your download and upload is going to be different. For your download, it's probably going to be about 6 megabytes per second in the best case scenario. I mean, everything's got to be perfect for that to happen. So that's theoretical, right? Theoretically, you can get up to 6 megabytes per second, right? So that's pretty awesome. All right. Anyway, so factor of 8. Okay, let's move on to the next. Oh, I clicked on it again. Yikes! Sorry, I'm gonna have to use my keyboard arrows. Oh, what just happened? Even the keyboard hates me. What's going on here? Full screen. Oh, so I see what I'm doing. What this is right here is just the. These are the speeds, and these are the what you call it, right? So this right here, the newest thing, the most current thing, is called 10 gigabit, right? 10 gigabit. But again, most people don't have that. Most people have this current thing, which is called gigabit Ethernet. And if you are unfortunate enough to have one of these, they don't even have this anymore. It's so bad that they call this 10/100 because, it encompasses both, right? They kind of merged them both together and just said, oh, that's 10/100. All right, so that's what that is. So if you ever see 10/100, it means you got the slow stuff. Okay, arrow key. YouTube video, we're going to skip. And okay, so let's talk about this. I kind of mentioned this before while we were talking about, motherboards and, when you're purchasing your computer and should you get a wireless card. If you have the choice, choose wired over wireless. If you have the choice. Why? Faster. Sound good to you? Sounds good to me. More secure. Right? Sound good to you? Sound good to me. Faster and more secure. Yeah, let's go for that. You're not going to be susceptible to interference or drop signals. Sound good to you? Sounds good to me. I had a friend who, every time they used the microwave, the game would, this is funny, right? Every time they would use the microwave, the internet would drop. And so, the parents would go and use the microwave, and the kids were in the middle of their game, and they're like, why? I got disconnected. Every time. And so, yeah, because I don't know if you know, but lots of things use the 2.4 gigahertz frequency, including like home wireless phones and Bluetooth, and even microwave ovens use that frequency. So you have to. So that's why 5. The other band is better. We'll get into that next. But so these are 3 great reasons why, if you can, not everybody can, but if you can, go wired. Okay. Next topic, number 9. Wi-Fi cards. Wi-Fi cards, aka also known as wireless card, also known as 802.11. Also known as wireless B, wireless G, wireless N, wireless AC, wireless AD. Right? If you see any of those things, we're talking about Wi-Fi. Well, why are there all these different names? Well, 802.11 was the number, the standard number. Like there was actually like just like the Constitution, there's like article this and section that, right? Kind of like that. And then there was, then there's different standards that were, so it's wireless. Sometimes it's called 802.11b, then 802.11g, 802.11n, right? So that's kind of the naming convention there. Obviously, AC is what pretty much everybody is running at, and that's modern. But AD is supposed to be a thing, but I haven't heard much about that recently, so I'm not quite sure whatever happened with that. I'll have to look that up. All right, the interfaces. In other words, what can you, if you buy a Wi-Fi card, what do you plug into? You're either going to plug into the PCIe daughter board slot, right? You know, that actual slot on your motherboard. I talked about that. I just showed you some pictures of some slots on your motherboard, right? It's called PCIe, also known as PCI Express. That's what the E stands for. Don't worry about what PCI stands for. Don't even worry about that. But PCIe, PCI Express, same thing. Or USB. Okay? If you got a PCIe one, it's dedicated. Right? You have a dedicated card that does all the processing for your internet. If you got a USB one, that means that it's not dedicated. It's basically going to be asking your computer, "Hey computer, I need you to help me out with this work." Right? Whereas if you got a dedicated PCIe one, it would be like, "Yeah, you know what? Don't worry about this CPU. Actually, it's a South Bridge, not the CPU, but let's just pretend it's a CPU. I won't even get to North Bridge and South Bridge. Don't even worry about that. But, hey, CPU, I need some help." Right? That's what the USB one will do. And again, it's not really going to tax your system at all. But the PCIe one will not. But the USB one is a lot easier to replace and swap. And more compatible, because you could plug that into a laptop, for example, if you needed to. Whereas this one you would not be able to. Let's see here. Wi-Fi standards are what's known as backwards compatible. Backwards compatible. What that means is that if you have an ancient computer that runs with wireless B, and your Wi-Fi router, the thing at home with the antennas on it, some of them have internal antennas, but and you have a wireless AC router at home, well, don't worry, that B will be able to connect to it. So they are backward compatible, just like USB, right? USB 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0, they're all backward compatible with each other. USB-C is not, because it has a new form factor. It's not that rectangular shape. It's on the bottom of your cell phone shape, right? Like that, that rounded shape. Okay, let's see here. But Wi-Fi routers and Wi-Fi cards must be the same to reach the max performance. Yes. So you do have to be careful here. If you have an older router at home and you're only able to go B and G, well, you're going to have some backward compatibility, but you're not going to be able to get the benefits of, right? If you want to have the benefits of the speed and distance of, say, the AC standard, you're going to need both your Wi-Fi card as AC and your Wi-Fi router at home to be an AC one. Okay? If not, it'll still work, but it just will not have. You might not be able to go as fast. Not that that's fast in terms of bandwidth, not in terms of latency, like how quickly you can get your internet. I mean, talking about full, download, how long it takes you to download something, right? That's what I mean. Not like, lag from a game. That's latency, yeah? Okay, so, obviously you're going to need both the card and your router to be able to be at the same standard for you to hit your theoretical max speed. And yes, all of those of you who bought Wi-Fi cards, yes, we are on the AC standard, so no worries there. It's just a matter of at home, are you on the AC standard? But if you're not, that's fine. If you are shopping for a new router at home, I recommend that you get yourself an AC or an AD. I haven't seen much news of that, but and I would recommend that it does say, you know what? Don't even bother with N. Don't get an N router. I don't even think you can buy one unless you buy one used. So go with the newer standard AC or AD if it's available. I don't see that. I haven't been keeping track of router, internet router news for a while. But do get yourself some dual band. Make sure it says dual band or even tri-band on your router, because that is actually quite important. And so let me see. Do I want to? Well, let me talk about what dual band and tri-band are. But let me first see. Is there anything else on here? Oh, the picture. Okay, let me. Oh, and don't worry about that YouTube video. I'll just talk about it in just a second. Show you some pictures. Right. So there is one that's a PCIe version. It plugs into your computer, and this one, you could see some of them even come with extra cabling and a remote antenna like this, so that you can actually put your antennas, say, on top of, somewhere high up or somewhere that's not being blocked, as opposed to having it behind your computer, which is up against the wall or in the corner of something that could potentially degrade your signal. So that's a good idea. I mean, you could, if you didn't want this, you could unscrew this and screw these antennas directly onto the ends of these. So that's a PCI one. Or you can get this, the USB versions, and some of them have antennas like that screw on there. Yes, you can actually go ahead with the USB ones, also get something like something like this, so that you could have it so your antenna is not being blocked. That is a possibility as well. Sorry, let me just see what I've written here next on my notes. I haven't looked at it for a while, and I do want to talk about dual band and tri-band for a second, but let me just see. What do I have? Okay, I'm changing over to something I found. Here, I'll go ahead and switch over to it. If you'd like to read this, you can go ahead and read this, but I'm just going to, it's just the difference in terms of distance, how far away, I believe, and what the, basically location 1, location 2, location 3, and 4, and what happened with each of these different kinds of bands. Right? So this is really comparing wireless N, the previous standard, with wireless AC, the current standard. Wireless AC being in blue down here. And this is the theoretical maximum on that. So theoretically, the fastest you are able to get on AC is 867 megabits per second. Okay. Now, you might have seen, wait, Ms. Yang, I'm pretty sure on your price list you said that we could buy a 1200 megabits per second wireless AC. What's going on there? Well, that's all marketing. What's going on with that? If you get the 1200, what it's doing is it's on dual band. And so what it's doing is it's just saying, hey, if you happen to simultaneously be using N and AC at the same time, add those two things up and you get 1200 megabits per second, right? Whoa, right? So that's more of a marketing thing. But yeah, there are faster, this is a little bit, as of January 2003. So this is a little bit old. So yeah, there are faster ACs, yes. But yeah, most of the ones that say, yeah, we're 1200 megabits per second, that's AC plus N speeds if you're on one versus the other, or on them, so that's, anyways. So, you know what, let me just take the moment here, because I don't think there's going to be anything after this. Let me talk about what in the world is dual band and tri-band, and that actually segues what I was just talking about right here with the N plus the AC. That's actually if you're running dual band. What that means is, and again, your router and your card has to be able to, well, your router needs to be able to support dual band. And I don't even know if, can you connect to both AC and N at the same time? I don't even know if that's possible. I could, maybe it is. I'm not sure. You're usually connected to one or the other, but okay, anyways, let's just talk about dual band. Why is that better? And why is tri-band even better than that? Okay, so what's going on is because we're in the age of transitioning between different standards, B to G. I mean, almost nobody's on B. Almost nobody's on G. There are still people on N. but not a ton. Most people are on AC. But, I mean, even with your cell phone when you're connecting to your home Wi-Fi, unless you've got an ancient cell phone, you're probably on AC. Okay? Unless your cell phone's like 8 years old, then you might be on N or something. You know what I'm talking about? Like, really, you've got to be pretty old to be on N at this point. Your laptop, 8 years old or older, you might be on N. Well, here's the thing. The fact is some people are still on N or G or B. And so what's going on is really to be able to, if you did not have a dual band router at home, what happens is, let's say you have a single band router and you have your laptop or your new computer connects wirelessly at AC. You're like, yes, this is so nice. I'm able to get pretty fast performance and pretty far away, and it's pretty nice. Then your dad comes home from work, plugs in his old ancient laptop, but he's on let's say he's on G. Well, guess what? If you're on if with a single band, this is what would happen. Everybody would bump down to the lowest common denominator. Everybody would now be at this band right here, which is where G is. Even you on your new computer running AC, boom, right back down. If even one person connects on something lower, it's going to default down to the lowest common denominator. Because with one band, it can only broadcast one signal, one type of frequency. And so what's going on is, well, you both want to connect. Okay, I'm going to, in order for both of you or all 5 of you or all 10 of you to be able to connect, I'm going to have to go ahead and bump myself down to the lowest common denominator. And that's why you need to make sure you get yourself a dual band router, because older devices will still be able to connect. And the newer devices will be able to have its own, own lane on the highway. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, okay, you guys connect on that band. I'm going to connect on that band. And so then that takes care of the problem. And tri-band. What happens with tri-band is 1 for the old guys and 2 for the new guys, because now you have 2 bands. And so, if you have a lot of traffic on your AC, then you have twice as many people doing the work, right? Twice as many antennas and bands to be able to handle that traffic. And so that's what tri-band would be. Okay. Let's see here. Next. What is next? I think we're done with what? Okay, so YouTube. No, we don't need to watch it. Oh, okay, let's move on. Okay, power supply. Number 10, power supply. Also known as your power supply unit, PSU for short. Everybody abbreviates it as PSU, power supply unit. This converts AC to DC and delivers and regulates the power to every component in your computer. Shane, what's AC? What's DC? Okay, quick lesson on AC and DC. Virtually every hang on, I have to get it. Okay, AC stands for alternating current. DC stands for direct current. Okay, so what's going on is back in the time of Thomas Edison, he invented what's called DC, direct current. And so basically it's just a current of electricity always flowing in one direction, always continuously forward, always forward in one direction. The problem with DC is that it is so inefficient. And if all of the power plants in America were to be DC, and the power was delivered, to all the houses as DC, what would end up happening is you would have power plants literally every other block of the neighborhood. A huge power plant. Now that would be ugly, inefficient, and expensive. That just was so basically. I think it was Tesla. who invented AC, alternating current. So instead of electricity flowing directly like this, always in one direction, always forward, alternating current goes like, it's like this, right? It's moving forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. It's kind of like it's doing that. And so anyways, you do have to convert between what is coming into your home as AC. It's coming in as AC. But then when you want to power something, you need that direct current. So you're actually converting it. Anyways, okay, so let's move on. I don't think we need to talk too much about that, but you can look up a YouTube video about that if you're interested. All right, so this converts AC to DC, and it's not always done efficiently, surprisingly. And so usually around 70% efficiency. In other words, you're actually drawing 100 watts of power from your outlet, but after the conversion process, you lose 30%. So your computer's only receiving 70 watts out of the 100 that it took out of the wall. Now that's not efficient. Now, and the longer you run with that, I mean, think of inefficient windows. You're going to have really breezy windows that, in the wintertime, the air comes in and your room is always cold because you chose to get inefficient windows. You have some leaks, right? Or you have an inefficient faucet or an inefficient toilet, right? Well, you can use more water per flush and all that stuff. So, it adds up in the cost, the total cost of ownership for your computer. So typically what happens are, power supplies, they'll say, yeah, we'll get you about 70% efficiency. Yeah, we can get 70% or better. Well, you know what? That wasn't really, it could be engineered better. And so basically it was. And so they labeled these 80 plus power supplies. So if the power supply can get you more efficient, it's called 80 plus. And there's different tiers of even that. And I think I have a picture of that. Let me see. Okay, usually power supplies are listed in terms of their maximum wattage output ability. So for example, 400 watts of power is the total amount that it can handle outputting. Now that's for your entire computer system minus, say, your monitor and your, what else? Monitor and speakers, I guess. I mean, aside from those two things, right? What is your system going to need? Your CPUs are going to be, running, if you're playing a game, it's going to get up to about 65 to 100 watts, depending on which CPU you got. Some of them, they max out at 65. If you got the Ryzen 7, those are going to go up to, I think, 95 or 105. I can't remember which one of those watts, just the CPU. Nothing. I'm not talking about anything else. Just the CPU needing that much power. Your graphics card is going to, need anywhere between 75 to, well, yeah, I don't know how. It's probably because nobody got anything crazy insane for your graphics card. Between 75 and 250 watts, just right there, right? And those are the two most power-hungry components, your CPU and your graphics card anyway. So the rest of it isn't going to be as bad. And some of them are not bad at all. Like your hard drive is probably only sip like 2 or 3 watts of electricity, right? So not bad at all, right? Okay, so hang on. Let me... All right, just kind of some stats for you. Most modern desktops without a GPU, okay, if you don't have a GPU on it, and you've turned on your computer, and you've plugged it into you're plugged into the wall, you turned on your computer, everything's running, your Windows has finished booting up, and you're in the desktop environment. Usually, most modern desktops will fluctuate within 20 to 50 watts of power during like a normal idle stage or light usage. So it doesn't use a lot of power. While you're gaming, you're going to be going at maximum wattage. But when you're not gaming, you're going to be only burning about 20 to 50 watts. So that's equivalent to I don't know, 1 1 to 4 light bulbs being on, the CFL, the compact fluorescent light bulbs in your house. One to 4 on. Yeah, I mean, so not terrible. All right, desktops with dedicated GPUs while gaming will be probably running, I mean, it just depends on the system, but it should probably be running 90 at the very least. I mean, if it's sipping energy, if you got like a low wattage CPU and you've got one of those energy efficient graphics card, then you could be under 100 watts, but you could easily be going at 500. Okay, so let's take a look at the Gold Plus standard, not Gold Plus, 80 Plus standard. So if you get yourself what's called 80 Plus, what that says is, you know what? We guarantee that no matter what your load is, and that's on the left-hand column, whatever your load is, so your computer is running at 100% load or 10% load or 50% load, we guarantee you that you're going to get 80% efficiency, or maybe even better. That's what 80 Plus, if it has that certification, it means that. 80 Plus Bronze, which is the most common one, which seems to be the most common. It's going to get mostly 82, but can get up to 85% efficiency. You'll notice, and it gets higher and higher, you got silver, gold, platinum, and titanium. But you'll notice that where's the computer the most efficient at is at 50% load. The best performance you're going to get is at 50% load. So basically the rule of thumbs for calculating what kind of power supply, how many watts should I get from my power supply? Well, what you're going to want to do, usually the best thing to do is say calculate roughly how many watts of power your whole gaming rig, your whole computer system is going to take, minus monitor and speakers, right? Anything external from inside your box, your case. How much is that going to take? And yeah, basically what you want to do is you want to calculate are you gaming or not? And if you're gaming, how much do you game, right? I mean, are you gaming all the time? Is this just a gaming rig? Well, then see if you can get, so if you're like gaming and you're getting like, my gaming system, when I'm gaming, I'm burning like, 400 watts of electricity, when I'm gaming. That's about how much I run. Well, then you probably should get yourself an 800 watt power supply, right? If you want to run the most efficient. I mean, it's not because you're going to get all the way up to 800. You're probably not, right? But that's the ceiling. But to get the most efficient, you want to be at 50% load. Okay, I think I'm done talking about power supplies. Here's a picture again of power supply there. Has lots of cables. And these days there's also power supplies with modular cabling. I think one student got modular cables. That makes setting up a lot nice for cable management. Let's take a look at some of these cables because there's so many different types of headers on these cables. What in the world? Well, let's take a look at some of them. There's this one right here, the biggest one. It's called the 20+4 pin. You're going to have one of those. That's what connects to your motherboard. Well, why didn't they just make it a 24 pin? Well, because older motherboards used to be 20 pin. Newer motherboards, many years ago, they changed to needing more power the motherboard needed, and so they added an extra 4 on it. But to make it backward compatible with older ones, they made it a 20+4, right? So this snaps together or comes apart. So 20+4, that's for your motherboard. Yikes, a floppy connector? I don't even know if you guys were even born when floppy, no, you weren't, we're not born. Okay, so floppy disks. But some, memory card readers also use this kind of connector here. So, but this is kind of not super useful and needed, but you might see something like that. P4 motherboard. Okay, this also connects directly to your motherboard, and so this has 4 pins. You only see probably 2 of them, but it looks pretty much like one of these guys right here, right? It's a 4-pin one. These days, it actually comes in 2 of them side by side, connected together, kind of like this. So 4 on one side, 4 on another. Because again, and this is directly it plugs directly into your motherboard, but it's actually for your CPU. And so some CPUs need so much power that just one of these 4 pins is not enough, and so that's why they have the extra another 4 for it. So it's for your CPU. And no, you can't connect this directly to your CPU. That's not possible. So it connects to your motherboard, but it's supplying power from that motherboard to your CPU. That's what that is. So usually they're going to come with 2. We have these old ancient. These are as ancient can be. Called 4-pin Molex connectors. This connected pretty much everything, anything and everything. Let me see if I can grab real quick. Here it is. Old. Oh no, this one doesn't even have it. Yikes. Okay, well, no, never mind. I was gonna grab. I grabbed this old hard drive right here. And oh, can you see that? Right. This one doesn't even have it. It has the newer SATA, which is what this connector is right here. But it used to be hard drives used to connect using this. And even DVD drives and CD drives, they used to connect using this. And if you had some case fans, they connected via this. And if you got some lights inside your computer, it connected via this. Right? So that's what ended up happening. Okay, but nowadays, everything, all these other components like your hard drive, right? For example, hang on. Let's take a look at, I don't know if you can see this. Let me hold it up. And let me temporarily make this bigger. All right. See those kind of really long L-shaped things right there? That's what that was for. Now the bigger one over here, that one was for the power going to your hard drive or your DVD drive or whatever, right? And this smaller one over here is for connecting it to your motherboard, right? Because it does need power, and yes, it does need to be connected to your motherboard. Okay, so that is what's called the SATA connector, SATA, SATA. Okay, lastly, this right here, PCIe connector. Okay, so what this is this is a 6-pin. This is connect to your graphics card. If your graphics card needs extra juice, this is extra power for it. Now, if you have a pretty energy efficient graphics card, the actual slot that you plug your graphics card into, that daughter board slot, right? Called the PCI Express port. That slot itself supplies up to 75 watts of power, but most graphics cards need more power than that. Well, that's where this comes in. And there are such thing as 8 pins. Some of them needed more power, so they added this is just a 6-pin, so they added 2 more. And there's some honking graphics card that need 12 pins, so you use 2 of these 6s. And some of them needed 16 pins, so you use 2 8s. Right? And so there's all these different configurations, and so your power supply should be able to handle whatever it throws at you. Okay, so those are the different connector types. This is going to be kind of important for, I don't think this is on the test, but it's important that you see it so that when we start building our computers, you'll know what to plug into what and what's for what is really what this is for here. Okay, let's move on. Hang on, where is my notes? Okay, probably your favorite topic is topic number 11, graphics cards. Graphics cards. All right, so we've got some graphics card here, and here's some pictures down here. Here's a single fan version. Here's a triple fan version. These are AKA and also known as video cards or GPU, graphics processing unit. Right? CPU, GPU, PSU, yeah, are the abbreviations that are common for these. Now, besides how many fans these 2 pictures have right down here, I also want you to notice how much vertical space this takes up. You see, this only takes up 1 slot on the back of your computer. I don't know if you can tell, but this takes up 2 slots because 1 slot is for the ports. Well, that's a really old card there because it has 2 DVIs. Yikes. Yeah, don't nobody have 2 DVIs anymore. But anyway, okay, I should update that picture. But the top slot is for the fan to blow out from. So instead of blowing the hot air into your case, it blows it out of your case. I mean, hopefully you have some case fans that do blow things out of your case as well, but it'd be nice if you just directly blow it out of the case instead of saying, here, let me blow it in the case, and now you take care of it. Somebody else take care of it, right? So that's kind of more, yeah, a lot of the gamer cards that are a little bit more, these are usually for people with really small systems that they, or very, they don't have a good power supply and they can't handle anything too powerful, so they'll usually get something dinky like this. Okay, let me see. What is this? Always dedicated. Okay, sorry. This is you don't even have to write this down. This is the evolution again. Used to be always dedicated. Yeah, used to have to always buy a dedicated graphics card. There was no other option but to buy dedicated. Then it became integrated onto motherboard. Then it became integrated on the CPU. Now it's coming back again to always dedicated. But there are still instances, as in our class this year, of having some built onto the CPU. Okay. Okay, who should get dedicated? It's recommended for hardcore gamers, or if you're doing a lot of video rendering and video production, then you're probably going to want that. Who should get integrated? If you're doing light gaming, or you're not doing any gaming, you're just using your computer for other stuff like surfing the web and doing office work, right? Then you don't need to get integrated. But again, this year, that integrated that graphics card again, that graphics card that's integrated on that CPU, man, that thing will play games. So no worries there. So you're covered either way with that. How does it connect? It connects via the officially known as the PCI Express 3.0 times 16 slot. Now, it's kind of confusing, but there's actually multiple PCI Express slots. Some of them are called times 16, and some of them are called times 1. Take a look at this picture down here. Let me just draw on my screen just for a second here. Let's use red. If you have a card that the connectors is only that big, you've got yourself a PCI Express times 1. And if the port's only that big, like really just like less than an inch wide, you've got what's called a PCI Express. Graphics card, on the other hand, right? They take up a pretty long lane of stuff. Now that's called the PCI Express times 16 slot. That's that thing there. So if you got yourself an integrated Wi-Fi card, it's using this thing here, which is only about this size here. The connector for it's only about that size. And the slot is only about that size. Okay. All right. Oops, I unfull screen. Let's see here. I kind of mentioned this already. This PCI Express 3.0 times 16 slot provides up to 75 watts of power. If your graphics card needs more than 75 watts, it'll need to be connected directly to your power supply. I already explained that in the last thing. Okay? And lastly, it's possible, though not these days, it's not. Most people prefer just getting one awesome graphics card as opposed to two good ones, if that makes sense. But back in the day, yeah, there was a case issue for, and maybe there still is today, I don't know, of getting two good or great cards. All right, you can have multiple graphics cards work together by connecting them with what's called an SLI or crossfire cable ability. So basically it links the two cards together and they're just side by side and it links together. Here is a picture of, oh, here's a picture, yeah, ooh, of a motherboard. And you can see here are some PCI Express 1 slots. They're really, really small. And here is the PCI Express times 16 slot. So really, really wide. And most modern motherboards don't even have this anymore. These medium-sized ones underneath that, because everything's just being used with these now. This is good enough. These are really, really ancient technology. Yeah, it looks bigger, but it's not faster than this. Okay. All right. Not sure why, but I have another picture of a motherboard here. Let me see here. Oh, okay. See, take a. Oh, I think I know why. Take a look. PCI Express 16 time, 3.0, 3.0, 3.0, 3.0. So this motherboard here would be able to do 4 graphics cards on it. So SLIing, I guess, 4 of them together. Well, two and two. I don't know. I don't think you can do 4 together per se, but paired together. Here's a picture of a graphics card, an old one. Yes, it actually came in a crate, and yes, it actually came with a crowbar. How awesome is that, right? This is an ancient one, but from that was funny. Here's a picture of some 4 of them SLI'd together. Well, technically, they haven't actually SLI'd them, because I can see all of these pins. They didn't put the connector linking each of these things together, but that is one honking system right there. And this next picture, here we go. See, now they're SLI'd together, or crossfire, depending on if you're doing AMD or NVIDIA, right? They both have the same thing but different name for that. All right. That comes to, we're at the end of our mouse, our graphics card. Next, we're going to fly through now, because the rest of the stuff is not much to talk about. Number 12, the mouse. This is an input device. Connects via those round, purple and green, what is called the PS2 ports. You're not going to see that anymore these days. Everybody's going to be, connected via either USB or Bluetooth these days. But yeah, you saw in the picture before those round purple and green ports. That's called the PS2 ports. What can I say? Tracking technology. It used to be a little ball in there. I don't even know if you guys ever seen one. You guys are this is so old technology, but they used to have a ball on the bottom of it, and then you roll it around on your table, and that ball rolls around and it tells it to move, right? Then it moved on to what's called optical technology, where it's actually tracking. It's shining a light on your table and tracking that. And even better than that, although optical is still very, very common, but if you get the best mice, they would be laser, which is more accurate and less common, less prone to having tracking issues. It'll track on any surface, even on glass surface, right? Optical will not do that. On highly reflective surfaces, optical can't function, but laser will. You can go wired or wireless, up to you. You can go standard or gaming, again, up to you. Depends on what you're doing. For example, this Microsoft mouse on the screen is nothing fancy about that. Just 2 buttons and a wheel, if you want to say that's a button too, 3rd button. All right. Bam. How many buttons are on that guy? I think, well, according to that, it says G16. So I'm going to guess there's 16 buttons. See, G1, G2, G5. There's 16 buttons on that thing. And are those 2 separate wheels? I don't even know. All right, and there's things that look like that. Yeah, okay. I guess that's all I need to say about mouse. Topic number 13. You also have keyboards. This is a component of your computer. Excuse me. Connects also via the PS2 slot, the old ones, really, really old ones. But most modern ones are either going to connect via USB, wired, or wirelessly using the 2.4 gigahertz or Bluetooth. Well, how do I know? I have a wireless one. How do I know which one it is? If it doesn't say Bluetooth, it's 2.4. Most wireless keyboard and mice, they're on the 2.4. But an increasing amount are going to Bluetooth. If it came with like a USB dongle that you have to plug into your computer, most likely it's the 2.4 gigahertz. If it didn't come with any dongle, any USB thing to plug in, it's most likely going to be Bluetooth. All right, you have standard and gaming keyboards. And I guess I could add one more category, which I didn't. Backlit and non-backlit keyboards. And I guess you can also say mechanical keyboards and non-mechanical. I mean, there's actually, every keyboard used to be mechanical, but, factories found ways to slice complexity, slice time and cost to build. And so a lot of keyboards use like little springy systems that are not mechanical, but are kind of like a plastic, rubber cap almost kind of thing that springs back. Anyways, okay. So there's different categories there. So here's some pictures of some crazy keyboards here. We've got some backlit ones, which are RGB, and you have non-RGB ones. I really do prefer these backlit ones because even when it's not super dark in the room, it's really nice to be able to see that. It's a lot easier to see the keys, and that's sometimes helpful. Look at that behemoth, man! Look at that. I don't even know what all these other things are for, but it looks pretty cool. All right, that's all I need to say about keyboards. We're almost done. We're on the last thing, number 14. Cases. Cases. Now I think I probably need to update this, but excuse me, because there's really there's more than this nowadays, but there's kind of like 4 different kind of form factors. There's like the full tower, which are behemoths. There's more common what are called mid towers. Then there's the mini towers. This is going to be kind of like what we're at, mini towers. Because again, a lot of people don't need like CD-ROM drives, and used to be like people needed 2 CD drives because you had to copy from one to the other, so you needed 2, right? And so people would have like 2. You'd need at least 2 bays there, and then they'd have like another bay for like their memory card readers and stuff like that. Well, anyways, and floppy drives, they'd have a floppy drive reader. Oh my goodness, right? Back in the day, right? So there isn't really a need to get that big. Really that much. So a lot of gamers are either mid or micro, or mini tower, right? There's also the small form factors, which can get even smaller than that, and so something like this. And so there's really this thing that you'll see sometimes called ATX. It's kind of it's really a sizing convention, and so I don't know if I'm doing this justice, but really, in my mind, when I see ATX, I think of full size. Like, cars. Some cars are full size. Sometimes you have a compact car. Sometimes you have like a, subcompact car. There's different categories of cars, right? Mid-size, full size, compact, subcompact. There's actually different sizes of cars and categories. So same thing with these cases. And the differences are sometimes pretty minor, just like in cars. What's the difference between a full size and a mid-size? You know what I mean? So yeah, there are differences. So ATX, when I see that, I think of like, you know what? With this analogy, it would probably be mid-size car. It's just a standard mid-size car. Most cars are going to be mid-size. And this is going to be like a full-size car. And this is going to be like a compact car. And this is going to be like a subcompact, those really, really tiny cars, All right, so that's kind of how I look at it. Okay, and you do have to be careful when you're putting your computer together that everything fits inside. You could potentially get a motherboard that's too big for your case if you're not paying attention to things like this. Well, do I have a micro? Is this motherboard compatible with a micro ATX? Sometimes abbreviated as MATX. yeah, you have to pay attention to things like that. So there shouldn't be any surprises. I made sure that everything fits where they should for your computers, so it should be fine. Cases, aka tower, computer, box, or chassis. Okay, so those are some of the different names that some people call them towers. Yeah, hey, take a look at my tower, or take a look at my computer. They're really talking about this. They're not talking about the screen. They're talking about this guy, or your box. Some people just call it the box. Some people call it the chassis. The case is what other people call it. Okay. It holds together and protects all your components. That's the purpose of this. Holds and protects. Holds, contains, protects. As you can see from this picture below, comes in many different sizes and shapes, actually. There's different form factors. What used to be popular back in the 80s were the ones that were, instead of standing up, it would be lying down. The lying down called the, what's it called? It's called like the desktop. Darn it, I forgot what that is called. But lying down on its side and you'd have your monitor on top of it was what everybody in the 80s was doing it that way. Okay. I kind of alluded to this. The motherboard and the case size must be compatible, right? Don't get a motherboard that's too big for your case. You're going to have to return one or the other. So careful on that. Here's a picture of a standard mini tower right here. Here is a picture of a standard mid tower case. Mini tower and mid tower. I mean, this one's going to be just a little bit taller than the mini one before it. Here's another mid tower, right? I mean, really the only difference is, how tall it is, really, and what size motherboard it can fit inside of it. So really that's going to be the only differences. You can obviously, have side panels that are clear so you can see through. You can obviously get some bling bling and get some lights on it. Again, you can see like rear fans. You can have frontal fans, and again, what usually happens is your front fans suck in the cool air, your back fan blows out the hot air. And sometimes you'll have case fans on the top as well, which are also blowing out. So sucking in from the front and bottom, and in this case also, usually it's a front bottom, but also sometimes it's the front side. See these gills right here, it's sucking in from there. Whereas this one right here, there's no gills on the side, so it's basically sucking in through, I guess a little bit through there, but mostly it's going to be sucking in from underneath here. So that's why it's important for computers, especially if you're going to put it on the floor, which I don't recommend. You're going to get, your computer's going to get much more dust in it if you put it on the floor, especially if you have carpeting. But even if you don't have carpeting, if you ever go into one of your rooms, in a corner of your room, and you haven't swept your room for a while, you'll notice, oh wow, there's lots of hair and dust in this corner. Yes, and if you put your computer on the floor, it's going to suck that all up, and it's going to end up in your computer system, and your computer system's going to be, your fan's going to get clogged with lots of dust and eventually die out. Well, it's going to die out sooner than if you took good care of it. Good cases come with feet to prop it up off the floor to help get that airflow, because trust me, I mean, with some of the older cases, they didn't have much of a foot at all. I mean, it would just be like, the thickness of like a quarter, and it's flat, right? And so it's just like right up against the ground, and it's not being able to suck up any air at all. Also, I wouldn't put your case right up against the wall either, because now all that hot air which is blowing out, it's going to stay near there, and that excuse me, that residual hot air is going to be right up against your system and potentially coming right back through your system through some of these other holes in the back of your computer, right? So, so my recommendation, if possible, your computer should not be on the floor and not right up against the wall, if possible. Raise it up from the floor a little bit. I mean, even if you put it on the floor, put something underneath it. Buy a little box or something permanent that lifts it up from the ground a few few inches, maybe like, 6 feet or something like that, Get a cinder block or something. Put it on top of that. Anything to get it off the floor because that's where all the dust is. Couple more pictures, and then we're done. Here's some systems here. You see different shapes. This is some systems are more square. Some are completely see-through. Here's one that's completely flat and see-through with no walls on the sides. See, look at that. And you can stand it up. If you want to stand it up, you can stand it up. So, there's going to be, no airflow issues with this because there are no side panels, but you could potentially have dust issues getting into your system because you've got nothing protecting it from dust settling on the top of it. But that looks pretty sweet. Some more cases. That looks like an alien of a case, but yes, you can get stuff like that. You can even get cases that look like this. Right? DIY cases that look like a coffee table or a side table. You can put a lamp on top of that. Yes, see, that's the Blu-ray drive right there. Look at that. Pretty cool. How about this? Somebody built their own, just out of some aluminum framing. How about this? Building out of wood, custom made. And even you can upcycle for your case if you wanted to. Like, take a look at this. This is a real microwave oven that has a computer built inside of it. And the screen is built right into there. And we got a toaster oven that has a built-in it's been computified. It says GE. I can see the GE logo right there. Yikes. And look at that case there. It literally is a case. You can even, if you wanted to, do that. Okay? So there's nothing keeping you. I don't advise you to do this. But really all a case is something to hold all your pieces together. So it's as whatever works is whatever works. I don't recommend doing that. Nor do I recommend doing this, but you could. Look at that. It's just duct tape and, dude, you could have gotten like at least a nice looking box from Amazon or something. But, I mean, yeah, there it is. How about this one? Built the computer right into your guitar, and the CD-ROM drive comes right out from there. And even this. Yes, this is a computer built in an aquarium. And here it is on. Now, before you go out and do this, please realize that this is not water. This is mineral water, right? There's a clear difference between water and mineral water. You put your system in water, bye-bye system, right? So this is something you could do. I don't recommend you do it, but you could do that. And there is a YouTube video about that, and so let's see. Let's take a look at it. Let's put it on even faster. Nice. Okay, you see what they're doing is above the mineral oil, they're actually putting water. So it's a two-layered thing. So on the bottom is mineral oil, and on the top is water, which is lighted oil. And so they're actually able to put some fish in it. All right, pretty sweet. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's the end of my presentation, and thank you for staying with me. Wow, an hour and 44 minutes. But yeah, that's everything. So I just thought I'd just put it all together right here. I mean, you didn't have to watch it all in one sitting, and you could put on 1.5 speed if I was going too slow. But there it is. That's everything for this. So if you've watched this and you've remembered it and you've taken some notes, then you should be ready for the test. More news to come about the test later, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and stop the video for now, and I will be emailing you more details to follow in the days and weeks to come. All right, God bless. See you guys later. Bye-bye.